Pooja Khosla, PhD. Pooja is the Chief Innovation Officer at Intelligent, that's Entelligent. Pooja is an economist, a mathematician, an academician, a business maker, and a thought leader in the sustainable and climate finance space. She has deep knowledge to build sustainable investment solutions and has been working on impact solutions since 2003, both nationally and internationally. She is one of the inventors of patented smart climate technology and has several publications in economics, impact investing, sustainability, and microfinance. Her publications footprint includes lead journals such as the Financial Times and Pensions and Investments. Her voluntary work includes being a research and academic advisor to US SIF and GARP. So please join me in welcoming Pooja Khosla to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I know I have 15 minutes with you all, so I'll keep it quick. First, I want to thank Paul Elise and Peter Fisaro for their humble invitation so that I get this opportunity to meet you all who I share a common care, a common mission. The common care and common mission is sustain the sustainability finance. So let me see how this clicker works.
Backwards. The green button.
Okay. Okay. So I am a scientist, a thought leader, an academician, and a business maker in sustainability space since last 15 plus years. And I just want to put some of my observations, transparent observations, in front of this audience. The first observation is, what is done cannot be undone, borrowing it from Macbeth. Yes. We have missed the 1.5-degree climate target scientifically. According to climate scientists, it is now not achievable. And you know what? I feel that we have missed that train. I feel that we have missed that train because look at the speed of regulations. It is not fast enough. Look at the struggle and look at the speed of the capital markets in steering funds towards impact or sustainable finance. It's not there. Third, coming from Boulder, Colorado, skiing at whale resorts in November and December on the false man-made snow. We are living the climate change. Last year, packing my bags in Marshall Fire to evacuate my house, feeling the climate change. So yes, we have missed that train, 1.5-degree Paris target already. Second, energy transition is integral to a low carbon target 2.0, which we can still achieve. And I say that we can still achieve that target because of the third fact. I know that we have to fulfill huge energy demands. And to fulfill huge energy demands, we cannot stop burning fossil fuels. But third fact, energy transition is happening. In the last 5 years, renewable energy has contributed 90% of the new energy capacity. Example one. Example two, look at liquid hydrogen. Look at the capacity and production innovation in the battery space. I started my career as a climate modeler, and my mentor said, all models are wrong, some models are useful. And one thing I like about climate models going wrong is that their prediction of renewable energy prices. Today, we see renewable prices lower than ever we have globally experienced. And this is something, wrong information in climate models, that I am very proud of, that there is a lot of hope to speed up more energy towards energy transition. So there is still hope. Fact four, sorry. Energy transition is most crucial to our investment decisions, and our investment decisions do follow the trajectory of energy mixes and energy prices. And being a statistician, I've observed 2 natural experiments in last 5 years which prove that. Natural experiment number 1, COVID. What happened during COVID? Energy prices fell down. Demand of fossil fuel reduced. And what happened to the ESG funds? The performance of ESG funds went up, followed up very shortly by a Russia-Ukraine war. What happened during the Russia-Ukraine war? Demand of energy went up. And last year, we envisioned a year where ESG was underperforming, not because it was an ESG issue, but because of ESG application issue. And I say it was an application issue because, hey, there was a trade-off. I'm a mathematician. I do a lot of optimization problem. We have to do work with our constraints, and we have to make our objective function straight. So what did we observe? That we were using a constraint of trading off carbon risk for diversity risk. The portfolio were not diverse enough. They were excluding the sectors. They were excluding the regions which represent high fossil fuels. So now we have lived 2 natural experiments to show that energy transition and to look into energy not only in a backward way, but also in a forward way is very, very important. Last fact, sustainability and profitability is still possible, and it is still possible if we solve that application issue, because it's not the tug of war between sustainability and financial materiality. It is all about empirical validity. And I loved what we heard from Lazard's presentation today and Schroeder's presentation today, that finance, F, is the heart of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And I don't know why did they miss that F in the acronym of ESG. They should put it. Now, how is profitability and sustainability still possible? I'm an empirical person. I test things and I believe it. So one issue I see is if we have to change the current state of play a little bit. So in current state of play, most firms and banks claim to manage climate risk, but they are not actually managing it. They rely on self-reported climate data. They adopt broad brush decarbonization and undercut diversification, which is a key pillar of risk management. They assess emission impact on climate rather than climate's impact on companies. This is a very important statement. They access emission impact on climate rather than climate impact on the companies. So what I propose over here is that we have to change and make this sustainability risk packaged with sustainability impact. We are using a lot of approaches right now to see how companies are doing today or how they are adding to emissions, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, using bottom-up model, using self-reported carbon data. But now, instead of looking at it from a microscope, it's time if we start looking at these things from a telescope as well, using top-down climate model. Because the future that we are building tomorrow is very different than the past we have lived. And to build that future, we need to use forward-looking information, forward-looking climate models in our investment decision. And in this forward-looking climate models, what is changing the most is energy. Energy matters the most. It is powerful than what we think. And it is the medium of climate change, because if you will see, 90% of the emissions produced are from burning the fossil fuels. Now, we have the power to inform capital markets. We have the power to be play with capital markets. We are coming from multiple disciplines, multiple subject matter expertise, and we need a lot of collaboration over here to achieve this goal to steer the economy to the low carbon target. And when this forward-looking information is used right, when ESG is applied right, you will see ESG performing. You will see that sustainability and profitability can be achieved, and we have done this with multiple portfolios with our partners, Society General, where we have created indexes. These indexes are using forward-looking energy transition information, and these indexes not only performed in the energy price low market, which is before last year, but they also outperformed their market benchmark in the markets where most of the ESG firms were underperforming. So I would say that it is still possible to achieve sustainability and profitability, to achieve alpha, but we just have to make sure that we solve our application issue with empirical validity. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Pooja. I will start the questions for this session here. And the first one for you is, how can you validate energy transition, that the energy transition is real and it's actually happening?
So, Paul, it's a wonderful question, and I can validate that energy transition is happening and it's real by looking into regulations very closely. I know they were late to the table, but they are here. I am right now working on a lot of research on the regulations and what they actually mean in Europe. You will see Article 6, Article 8, Article 9, where they are making ESG or sustainability risk primary. US, I know, very late to the table, but still is discussing taxonomy and SEC. And Fed, I believe, last month issued a climate stress testing announcement where there were 7 banks which were selected, and they have to undergo and set examples for other banks. So we do see a lot of regulatory pressure. Second, we see a lot of energy breakthroughs also. So when I drive in Colorado, I see more wind farms than ever before. I see more solar panels than ever before. Inflation Reduction Act is pushing a lot of offices, even households, to go renewable. And consumers are very smart and knowledgeable right now. I never got my Patagonia jackets unless I was convinced with the ESG sustainability. But now at the age 40, I bought it because that aligns with my sustainability mission as a consumer.
Okay. Questions from the audience? Okay, I will move along here. Pooja, what sectors do you think are ready for climate transitions, and which ones do you think will struggle in this process?
I see most sectors are ready. The 2 sectors which are primarily ready are automobile. We see a lot of electronic vehicles on our roads than ever before. We see materials sectors and also a little bit of greenflation that we are experiencing, where we see that industries like Paper Corp are not performing, but lithium, nickel, and providers like Ball Corp and others are performing good because of this greenflations. And I also see a lot of transition happening in energy sectors. And it was a surprise when I was reading an article that Inflation Reduction Act is also really, really captured well by the energy company to open their renewable efforts. And so I think all sectors, if we give right incentives, can steer towards green changes.
And one last question that I have, and yes, here we go.
Yeah, there's an academic debate about whether climate risk is already to some extent factored in asset prices. So what's your view? Some people say yes to a large extent, some people say no. So what's your position about that?
So I'm an academician, I speak facts. In fact, I do a lot of work where we have used information from the climate models and used it into CAPM models and see whether we can get discounted CAPM adjusting the values. But The facts are that when you use energy information as a risk indicator, like we did in a S&P 500 benchmark or MSCI benchmark, you do see the companies that you select, which are penalized less in your energy CAPM model, do perform. And they do perform in volatile energy markets as well, like we experienced last year. So empirical test on using or selection of investment based on ECAP, I call it energy cap models, I have seen a lot of benchmark indexes outperforming.
What's the role, Pooja, of the energy sector in climate transition? There's a lot of dialogue about that on an ongoing basis.
Paul, what you're asking is very close to my heart. 15 years of my life, I was an academician. And you know what? The real happiness was when the grade C student got an A, not an A minus giving an A. So I think it's time where we have to help energy sector with right incentives, because they are the maximum producers of the carbon, and they can be potential reducers of the carbon, because even the net zero words say not zero carbon, but the carbon production should be matched by carbon reductions, and energy sector has the most potential to reduce the carbon.
There are there's a lot of energy infrastructure already in place around the world, especially in the developed economies. How can that infrastructure be part of this transition?
So I think that a lot of infrastructure that the world has is the beginning point. And because there is an urgency, the changes will come in, and this infrastructure will support the changes as well. But something which I am really concerned as a scientist right now is the shortcuts. I see EU model, and they have a lot of infrastructure, and they are going towards natural gas, and natural gas is light brown. It's not green, because they're forgetting that methane also adds to carbon emissions more. I know that they are not at the forefront of the battle like fossil fuels. But the only fear of me is that we don't hide our want using a Band-Aid, using some shortcuts in available infrastructure that can be more expensive in the future.
All right, and anybody in the audience, any questions from the audience? We have time for a couple more questions. What about the transition of established energy infrastructure to a more green, functional energy supply?
I think that's the question we all are thinking about. And I think I loved in one of the presentation, I think it was with David, where he mentioned the invisible hand of Adam Smith. And so because of the existing spread of infrastructure in the energy, maybe this invisible hand of Adam Smith or efficient market hypothesis may not work. So it is the time where we learn from the second best economist, John Maynard Keynes, involve government, put government regulations in place, and make the changes less costly for the energy company so that they can shift the gears of existing infrastructure using the rebates. Because I think to help energy companies, investors and regulators have to help them to help us, the people who live on the planet.
Okay. So what about the current federal rules, the procurement rules that the federal government has put out for this massive infrastructure investment related to energy and other renewable sources or sources of business and development? How do you believe that that's going to help significantly? It's supposed to happen over a 10-year period, and the percentage allocations on a state basis in the US are, I think, a little bit more than 50% going to red states so far.
I love that question too, and I have to wear my shoes of teaching my undergrad students at college here that 4 principles of economics. One is incentive matters. People do care about incentives. And now if you will drive around, you will see more solar roofs in offices, even in houses. You will see more EVs coming on the road. And it was a surprise to me that when I learned that more than 50% of these incentives of IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, are used by energy companies because they are working on their carbon sequester and they are working on navigating and steering their energy diversifications towards the renewable. So I think that these government incentives are very important moving forward because we as humans do react to incentives. We as businesses do react to incentives. And moving forward, we may have to increase these incentives to match the speed of destructions that we face to avoid them. So I think we need more rigor over there.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Pooja Khosla, Chief Innovation Officer at Intelligent, and we appreciate your remarks today. Thanks for joining us in the 22nd Wall Street Green Summit.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody.